Starting extended child's pose, your knees come wide, big toes to touch. Lower your hips down to your heels, and then crawl your upper body down on the mat. Lowering your forehead, releasing your armpits down toward the mat. Hips are dropping your heels. It's okay if they don't touch. Turn your attention inward. Let's take a cleansing breath. Inhaling really big, fill up your belly into your chest, all the way up into the shoulders, and then exhale, open mouth, exhale. Releasing it all out. Taking one more cleansing breath. Inhale really big, filling up that belly, into the chest, up into your shoulders, and then open mouth, exhale. Inhale, rise up, finding tabletop. Hands come underneath your shoulders, knees come underneath your hips. Your back toes can be tucked or pointed, whichever is more comfortable for you. Look over your left shoulder, drawing your left hip towards your left shoulder, making a C shape with your spine to the side of the mat. And then inhale, come back to center. We're going to do the same thing. Lean over to the right, looking over your right shoulder pulling towards right hip. Now move back and forth, finding a pace that feels good for you. We're just warming up the spine and our hips and our wrists. Then come back to neutral. Step your hands one hand length forward, so about 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 inches. Whatever feels good so that you can make enough room to drop your hips and make really big hip circles. So when we come to the back, we're drawing them over the heels, going out far to the side so you can feel it along the inside of your hip. The outside of your hip. You can begin to move your arms and wrists in this. Maybe bending into the elbows when you come forward. And reverse direction. Might hear some pops or clicks. That's totally normal. Coming back to center. Walk your hands back closer towards you. And then turn it so that your fingers face the outsides of your mat. So we're kind of like seal pups sitting. You're just going to rock back and forth. Going only to where it feels good for you. We're just waking up the wrists. This is active. You don't want to dump into your wrists. You kind of want to draw your body up from them so that they have this space to move. Maybe you do little circles. Ooh, when I do circles, I get a click for sure. And then we're going to turn the hands again. So now the fingers are going to face back towards us. You're probably going to want to bring them closer to your body. Sit back in the heels. Go gentle with this one. We're doing the inside of the wrist, and it can be really tight, especially for riders. But these are all really good things to get these muscles loosened up. Now flip onto the back of your hands. And lean forward and back. Now we're getting into a different area of the arms and wrists. Again, we don't want to be putting all our weight into these wrists. It's more about the stretch and the movement. And then lift up. You're going to make fists with your hands. And you're going to see if you can try to roll out onto the back of your hands. and come back up. Bending as much into the elbows as feels good. This is going to be really intense if you put pressure. Don't put your weight, but put pressure so that you really stretch the backs. So I'm not dumping into my hands, but I am actively pressing against the ground as I do this stretch. And then rise up, come to seated, shake out your hands, roll out your wrists, maybe give your forearms a little rub, a little love. And then inhale your arms up to the sky. Lean over to your right. Left arm reaches up and over. Making sure you keep that left hip grounded so that the stretch goes through the entire side body. Inhale, come back to center, both hands up to the sky. Exhale, forward over your legs, crawling your fingers out as far as feels good. Dropping your head down towards the mat. And crawl your fingers back up. Take your hands behind you. Lift your heart. Broadening across the chest. Rolling those shoulders back. Come back to center. Lean over to your left. Right arm comes up and over. Grounding through that right hip. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale, walking back up. Take your hands to your knees. Do some really big shoulder rolls. So lifting the shoulders up towards the ears, pinching them behind you, dropping them behind the back, down the back. And then reverse direction. Great job. Interlace your hands, take them behind the head. Now we never want to tug, like pull at the neck, but a slight weight is going to be when we fold forward. But first we're going to inhale, so broaden, open, draw the elbows back behind you, opening across the chest, maybe even lifting it a bit to the sky. And then exhale, elbows draw in, head drops down, tailbone tucks under, spine sees to the back. Inhale, pull it through. Take a couple of these like a cat-cow, but seated, moving at your own pace. Seeing if you can really let your breath move you in and out of the poses. Great job. Stretch your arms out wide, like a T, broaden across the chest, maybe even flex into the wrists. And then switch the cross of your legs. Inhale your arms up to the sky. Exhale, right hand behind you. Left hand comes to your right knee. Inhale, sit up tall, and exhale, twist, look over that right shoulder. Inhale, come back to center. Arms up. Exhale, bend into your right arm, grabbing onto the back of your tricep with your left hand and helping it drop down that back. We don't want to lift our shoulder up to our ear. We want to drop our shoulder down as we also pull, so we get the full elongation of that stretch without bringing it into our neck. So your neck should be able to move free, should be in the middle. And release. Take your hands in front of you. Cross your right arm underneath the left. And then again at the wrist, we're finding eagle arms. So maybe your palms can come together, maybe they can't. Wherever you're at, try to lift your elbows up so they're in line with your shoulders and your hands press away from you. Pressing into the hands is really going to deepen the stretch between the shoulders. If this feels good, you might try exhaling and bowing over your legs. Release the hands, arms come out wide, sitting upright. Inhale, then back up. Exhale, turn to the left. Left hand comes behind you, right hand comes to left knee. Inhale to sit up tall and exhale, twist. Looking over that left shoulder. Inhale, come back to center. This time bend into the left arm, dropping the hand down the back, grabbing on with the right hand. Again, making sure that we don't lift that shoulder up. We want to keep it down and level. Also try to keep your head up. You don't want it so that you're curling into this. We really want it to come just into the arms so that we're broad across the chest. And release the hands, come out front. Left arm crosses underneath the right this time. And then finding again at the palms. Lift your elbows up in height with your shoulders. Hands press away from you and together. And then if you tried leaning over your legs on the other side, you can do so on this one. Release your hands, bring them out wide, like a T. Take the soles of your feet together. If you can, take your elbows to the knees and help assist press them down. I'm very inflexible in my hips, so some of you may even get further than me. You want to almost open your feet like a book so that the soles are twisting up towards the ceiling, if anything. You can butterfly them or just press. Just take the movements that feel good for you. Just a little side hip opening before we get into our standing. And then release. Roll over your knees. Find yourself to tabletop, tuck under those toes. And come to our first down dog. So it can feel good to have a little bend in the knees so we don't pull through our lower back. You want your heels reaching towards the mat. It's okay if they don't get there. You might want to pedal out that dog, so bending deeply into one leg as you straighten out through the other, and then switching. Bend deeply through your knees, look up towards your hands, and step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. So we're finding runner's lunge. You can stay up on your toes. If this is too much, you're welcome to drop down to your knees. If you're on your toes, it can feel good to kind of move around the first time we're in here. So both hands are inside of that right foot, sometimes moving back and forth. This is a very big hip starter for us. If your legs are lifted, try shifting your weight into your left hand. Take your right thumb and press on the inside of your right hip socket to try to draw it back more in line with your left, because there's a tendency to bring that right hip forward in this stretch, and we want to keep them square. So it's going to help you draw it back to feel where it's at when it's square, drawing the left hip towards the front of the mat. Then take your hand back down to the mat. See if this stretch feels a little different for you now. With our hips, it's all about breathing into them, finding that release, finding that space. If your leg is lifted, drop your knee down to the mat. Now finding this lunge on the ground, maybe even releasing down onto your forearms. Letting your right knee kick open, rolling onto the knife edge of your right foot if that feels good. So my knee is dropping out to the side, and my sole of my foot has now peeled off the mat. If you need to, you can always use blocks to lift yourself up higher or bolster. And coming upright, slowly toe ball that right foot to the center of your mat, taking your right hand to the outside of the right foot now. Engaging your core, inhale the arms up to the sky. Exhale, draw your hips back, straightening through that right foot, flexing through the right toes, finding Hanumanasana prep, half splits. We're folding over that right leg. Again, you can always use blocks or a chair to lift yourself up if this is too intense. And then try pointing through that right foot. See if you can get the right big toe down to the mat. Again, totally okay if you don't make it there. This just shifts where we feel a stretch into that front right ankle and top of the shin. And shift your weight back forward, bending into that right knee. Plant your left hand inside of the right foot. Drop your hips down and then inhale the right arm up to the ceiling. See if you can stack your shoulders on top of each other. Drop the right hand down, inhale back up. Exhale, take your hands to your lower back. Just let them rest. This is just gonna put a little weight in that. You can even see my hips drop down as soon as I just put my hands on them. Don't cause yourself pain. If this doesn't feel good, don't do it. Then take your hands down to the mat. Lift your back leg and inhale up into high crescent. Drop your hands down, interlace your hands behind your back, or use a strap if your shoulders are tight. Roll your heart open. Exhale, fold to the inside of that right knee, lifting your hands up to the ceiling, finding humble warrior. Inhale back up, release the hands, spiral open. Warrior two, so back foot's parallel to the short edge of the mat, front foot facing forward, dissecting the arch of your back leg. Arms are out wide. Gaze is over those right fingertips. Inhale, drop your left hand to your left thigh. Inhale the right arm up. Reverse warrior. Legs stay just as they were. Get a stretch all along this right side, even through that hip. Inhale, rise back up. Turn both toes towards the wide edge of your mat. Exhale, forward fold. Wide leg, forward fold. Taking your hands in line with your feet. Rolling your weight into the ball mounts of your feet so that you could lift your heels up if you wanted to. Shift some weight into your hands and try bending deeply through the knees. You might want to turn your toes out and heels in for this. You don't need to get to any particular pace. Just bend and straighten through your legs. Little hamstring warm up stretch. And then find stillness again. Inhale, rise up. Cartwheel your hands down to the mat and find your way back to downward dog. Noticing the openness in the right hip we've created. Let's do the same for the left. Bending through the knees, look up towards the hand step, the left foot through. Bring it to the outside edge of your mat, both hands inside of it. Finding runner's lunge. Again, if you need to or want to, you can drop down onto your knee. If you stay upright, it might feel good. Slide back and forth. Begin to find a little movement. Try shifting your weight into your right hand. Take that left thumb to the left hip and see if you can bring it back. Bring it in alignment with your right hip. For me, it's definitely, I totally kind of dump into my right hip and shift my left hip forward. And when I do this, I'm like, oh, there it is. You can almost feel it click into place. We get a lot more out of stretches when we're active in them and aware of them than if we just dump into them. That's why I say a beginner class is great, even if you're an advanced yogi, because sometimes we forget and we create bad habits that until someone wakes us up from them, we'll keep doing. If your back leg is lifted, drop your knee down now. Maybe coming down onto forearms and kicking that left knee out, coming onto the knife edge of the left foot. This one's definitely one of my favorites. Really big hip opener for sure. And rising back up. Toe ball that left foot into the center of the mat. Now we're framing it on either side. And inhale the arms up to the sky. Again, being conscious to draw the right hip forward, left hip back so we can bring a squareness to them. And then exhale, draw both hips back, straighten through that left foot, flex through the left toes, folding over the legs, Hanumanasana prep, half splits. I close my eyes a lot in some of these positions to really help me turn inward and focus on what's going on in my body, where it needs a little bit of love and relaxation. And inhale, come back forward. Plant the right hand inside of the left foot. Drop those hips down. Inhale the left arm up to the sky. See if you can stack those shoulders. And bring the left hand down. Inhale the hands back up. Exhale, take them to your lower back. Just putting a little weight in that hip. See if it brings it forward. Release, plant your hands. Tuck under that back toe. Lift the back knee. Rise up, high lunge. And then interlace your hands behind your back or use a strap. Open through the chest. And exhale, fold to the inside of the left knee, lifting your hands up towards the ceiling. Inhale, rising up, spiral open, warrior two. Drop your right hand down to your right thigh. Inhale the left arm up to the sky. Reverse warrior. Exhale, rise back up. Turn both toes towards the wide edge of your mat. I'm going to turn towards you so you can see me. And exhale, wide leg forward fold. If you feel good here, you might want to try this with me. Inhale to halfway lift, finding a straight spine, leaning over so that you can see it's straight, but we're just staying forward. Plant your right hand below your face. Inhale, left arm up to the ceiling, finding a twist. Again, thinking about your hips, you want your left hip drawing down and your right hip drawing up so that the twist goes all the way back. And then switching hands, left hand replaces the right. Right hand comes up to the ceiling. This time we're dropping the right hip down and left hip is lifting up. Take your right hand down to the mat. Hands to your hips. Inhale to rise. Toe ball your feet together closer so that they're just past shoulder width. Toes come out, heels are in. Bend into the knees. We're going to come down to Malasana. You can take your hands to heart center. Maybe take your elbows to the inside of the knees. You can always put something underneath your booty to lift it up if this is uncomfortable for you, if it doesn't feel good in the knees. You want your chest lifting and your body lowering, not a folding forward. So the goal is always to think lift as you work into this pose. You might even want to shift back side to side. Can feel good if you find the center. Take your right hand down to the mat. Lift the left arm up. Come back to center and switch. So left hand goes down, right arm goes up. Back to center. Lift your hips up. Feet come together. Forward fold. Now you can do this next move standing, or you can come and sit on your mat. Take a figure four, so crossing the right heel over the left knee, and then squatting into it. Again, you can do this sitting on the ground. I like to do it standing, but with one hand on the mat. It actually gives you more balance than trying to stay upright. It seems like it would be deeper, but it feels good to me. And then I like to pull on that foot with my other hand. But find the figure four. There's so many ways to do it that feels good for you today. We're just giving our hips one final hug. If you're standing, rise back out of it. Maybe a little push forward. And then we're going to do the same thing opposite side. So crossing the knee over the heel, or the heel over the knee. I take one hand down and I like to hold on to my foot with the other. It's good to have a flex in that top foot. That's going to protect your knee. Sometimes, often in class, I teach this on the ground, but today, since I'm going riding, I'd like a little more active stretch. So when I stand, I can get deeper in it. And rise back up. Both feet to the ground. Inhale your arms up to the sky, hands to heart center. Close your eyes. Find your breath. Thanking yourself for taking this time to stretch out your body. Thank you all for practicing with me. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.